do, one thou do. On thou do. On thou do. I'm in the heartland of Zen Buddhism, the heartland of spirituality, near Eiheiji Temple, here in beautiful Japan. Greeting the do. Un thou do. A metaphor for the do, the awakening, the state of unknowing, the state of unconsciousness, right? The state of eternity, right? It's the state of the near singularity, perpetual, always in this state. Thou is the event, is the awakening, is self-actualization. Do. It is enlightenment. We are the consciousness of the universe awakening, right, to its origin. And you may relate, how does this relate to Jesus and Thomas? Well, it's simple. You see, a sadhu, which Jesus was, which I am, a sadhu, one who is awoken. A sadhu is one who exists as being awoke. Everyone is a sadhu in the process. A sadhu is not something unique to an individual. It is something that is happening, right? A state of sadhuness can happen in a lifetime. It can happen in 1,000 lifetimes, but it's an eventuality of all life to become a sadhu. One who is awoke, a sadhu, one who says the do, right? One who speaks about enlightenment, who exists in enlightenment. Now there could be uns who pretend to be do's. There could be daos who pretend to be do's, right? So just because someone is speaking the do doesn't mean that they are a sadhu. And that's also very important. There are individuals who whether consciously or unconsciously, and maybe I'm one of them, who believes they're awoke. Maybe they're not awoke. That's up to you to decide as an individual that state of existence. But only you know, right? As an individual. As a listener, really, I am not a teacher, right? I am not a prophet. I am nothing, because you are everything. It is you who ultimately is the universe staring out at the world. Just as I am the universe staring out the world, we are the universe staring out the world. I like to say, I am Jesus, you are Jesus, we are Jesus. I am Buddha, you are Buddha, we are Buddha. Because ultimately, we came out of this state of unness, this near singularity. And this state of unness ultimately happened in the event we called the Big Bang, or the near singularity, right? This state of unness, we don't know how long in this state of unness we existed. It's eternity, right? Eternity, infinite. But from this state of unness, an event occurred, and that is a state of awakening. So you have to understand, we were all one thing. We were all one thing. So Jesus, Buddha, everything that we see in this world, there it is, the do, right, was one thing in this state, in this near singularity. And in this state of oneness, we became awakening. Now, it took us 13.8 billion years to become in this state of awakening, right? And in this state of awakening, we blossomed, just as the flowers and the rice. Look at that second stage. Stage of rice coming up here. All right, we blossomed. And ultimately, it is this awakening that we all seek. So Jesus, when he realizes that he's going, he says, God, I got to know what my people know. So he says, all right, we're going to have a big feast, folks. We're going to have a big feast. And ultimately, let's have a party. This guy want to get together because he was having his last master class. So they have this party. It's okay. At the end of the party, he says, listen, we're going to have a little special get together here. And I want to know, I just want to have a chat with you because things are going to be changing around here, folks. So he goes and he sits around, and they all sat in groups. You have to understand, they all were cliquish. Even back then, the disciples were cliquish. There was the thing is the varsity team clique, which would have been like, Matthew, Simon, Paul, right? Probably all right in there, And then there was the kind of think of it as the goth clique, which Mary would have sat in, and a couple others right there. And then there was the, I'm alone in the school clique, which would have been Thomas. Thomas sitting all alone. So Jesus turns to him and says, hey, okay, I'm a little simple test. He says, listen, if you will listen to my words, as I'm asking you to listen to my words right now, if you listen to my words and you grasp them, then you will not experience death. Death is impossible. Because when you exist in the do, what he's saying, when you exist in the do, there is no death. There's just the return to your origin, right? If you're existing as an un, or even as a Tao, you're in this awakening, you still don't get it. So if you will just grasp the meaning of my words, and if you read the Gospel of St. Thomas, it starts off that way. If you just grasp the meaning of my words, Jesus says, or the Sadhu says, I don't like to say the word Jesus, Sadhu said, you won't experience death. Because you realize that you're just returning to your body, right? We have this brief moment of awakening in this dream that we created because we were, if you want to say, as Alan Watts would say, like we were bored. If you were a god and you're like, well, being a god becomes boring. I mean, what is exciting just to stop? I mean, how many babies can you save? How many people can you save? I mean, your existence to sit there as an arbitrator saving people? No, I don't think so. All right. When you're a super intelligence, you may want to create something called a holographic universe and say, hey, I want to forget who I am and I want to exist so I can actually experience and see and play this game. Can I awaken? Can I become awoke? Awakening, awoke. Can I become awoke? And if I can become awoke, I will find it all a big game and realize who I am and, and say, I'm awoke. This is what it's all about. So the Sadhu turns, he says, okay, who am I? He says. And the first, the varsity clique of his students, his favorite, quote, your favorites. Matthew, Luke, Mark, there have been a little clique there. Raise a hand and says, Lord, you are like a wise philosopher. Jesus, look at him and go, wow, this fucking group of ants. Or maybe you're in the process. You never call an on. You'd say you're in the process of do-ness. In the process of do-ness. They're still in the process of do-ness. They don't get it. And he goes, okay. And he turns and looks at the other clique, and says, who am I? And he looks at the goth kids, Mary and so on, all sitting there, and they look together, they whisper, and they say, Lord, you're like a oh wait, sorry, I made a mistake. The first one, you're like a righteous angel. Righteous angel is the first one. The second one said, you're like a right? You're like he rolls his eyes. That was the righteous angel. The second one, he goes, oh, you're like a wise philosopher. That was the second kids, right? closer, not really. And then finally he looks at Thomas and goes, Thomas, who am I? And Thomas looked down, couldn't look at him in the eyes, and everyone's glaring at Thomas because what is this smart? Because see, Thomas was a kid in class who would always basically question everything Jesus would say, right? He was that kid in class, just could not shut up. It's like everything, like doubts everything. And everyone's like, why can you not just accept the word of Christ? Why can't you not just accept the word of Jesus? Why do you have to, always attack and question everything else? Why can't you just be like, okay, go along with it? It's like what a lot of people say about like the Trump people, right? The Trump Republicans, Republican in name only. Rhino is only those that question, if you question Trump, then you're a rhino. You're not a real Republican on that. So ultimately, the Sadhu asks this question, who am I? And Thomas looks down and he goes, my teacher, my words are incapable of describing who you are. And the Sadhu snaps at him. He says, I am not your teacher. He screams really forcefully at Thomas. And Thomas then, looks down and he said, okay, he gets up and he says, come with me. And he takes Thomas and he's gone for hours. And we do know, based on it, is that he taught Thomas 3 words. 3 words. And he comes back and everyone's crowding around Thomas. All of a sudden he's like, oh shit, what did the Lord teach him? What lessons for 3 hours? Basically what Jesus said, listen, hey, you have to understand, you get it, Thomas, right? Of all my students, you're the one who gets it. And you see, as someone who is awakening, they question. They just don't go along. They question. And they seek answers. And that's what Thomas has always done. He wanted to get it. He wanted to touch the wounds. He wanted to be scientific. He wanted to, incidentally, it's my dad's name, right? And he wanted the truth. And so Jesus gave him these 3 words, un, thou, do. Because once you have to understand, once you grasp the 3 words of un, thou, do, there is no need of a Bible. There's no need of a church or an organization or anything else. Un. There are uns around you who are going to try to undo, unravel, undermine you. Recognize them for who they are, and they will lose their strength over you. Uns. Thous are those that support you. They're like your oak trees around you. Recognize them and appreciate them for what they have done for you. Those are your thous. Your do's are your teachers, are the ones that define you, whether it is Jesus, whether it's Buddha, whether it's, Lao Tzu or Confucius or, Shakespeare or your teacher or your father or your parents. They're your do's, Recognize them and appreciate them for who they are. As an individual, you want to un people with laugh and smile. You want to undo not only their position, but also sometimes you're going to find yourself in a state of unness. And you need to laugh and smile and get out of your funk because everything is like clouds in the sky. Today's clear. It's this day of dew. But ultimately, it's not always going to be that way. So you can undo your own, and we know this from science. You have endorphins and other things when you laugh and you smile and someone comes at you real serious and you smile. And Jesus did that all the time, didn't he? Reflect and just reflect back love. Not what's going on with the Trump supporters who are reflecting back hate, who are attacking the school board just because they question. I mean, we live in a society here in Japan, where I live, where kids have been wearing masks for now 2 years, and there is no health problem with the kids with masks. They've been wearing masks here for nearly 50 years. Whenever there's a sense, they wear masks. There's no health problem. There's no harm with wearing a mask. It's not going to cause any issues with it. But when you don't look at the facts and you demonize the reality of things, then ultimately you're being an un. And they're undoing folks, making them quit the school board. And they're happy. They're great. They're quitting the school board. Let's kick out all the election people so we can have, unbiased, we can have biased elections, ones that will overturn the election, a fair, legitimate, democratic election in the future. That's what's coming. You can say prophesized way before everyone else. The Trump, the time of awakening, the state of, January 6th, I said it was going to be a massive day. Way before everyone else talked about it. As a Sadhu, you see things for what they are. Does it really matter if America goes in? I hope, in a way it doesn't. In a greater scheme, it doesn't matter. It just didn't matter when Nero burnt Rome down. And we look back 1,000 years ago, it doesn't matter to us. But you think back then, did it matter to them? Of course it did. But 1,000 years ago, we'll laugh at Trump. We'll laugh at all this. We'll laugh at all this stuff here. If we're around 1,000 years. On down. Breathe in the universe, breathe out the universe. Breathe in the universe, breathe out the universe. Breathe in the universe, breathe out the universe. On down do, on down do, on down do. On thou do on down do on thou do.